Hello, my friends. Hello, my life warriors, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to the Day In, Day Out podcast. Woo! Today on episode 198, it is oh my God. Welcome return of D. Yes, he is the host of Sex, Drug, and Jesus podcast. Yes, on the part one of the episode, 10 episodes ago, we were talking about, yes, his time in prison. And yeah, we kind of finished off the story on this episode of his time in prison, how he started to do his fight back to recovery, and yeah, what his next steps are, moves, and will be. I've got to say, yeah, D is one non-stop fella. He is an inspiration to talk to and a joy to have. I look forward to speaking to him in the future. I look forward to going on his podcast in the future. So please sit back, enjoy the show, and yeah, have a good one. Please remember, subscribe to the show and follow. It helps us out a lot. Haha. Peace. Oh yeah. Oh. Hello, my friends. Hello, my life warriors, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to the Day In, Day Out podcast. What can I say? Today on episode 198, I have the welcome return of D. He has a podcast called Sex, Drugs, and Jesus. Don't know why I put sexy in there, but I think, yeah. And yeah, let's just say on part one, before he destroyed his microphone during the podcast episode, yes, he was telling us his rather colorful story of his life. And if I remember, last time, him and a crew were causing up a scene to get the attention of prison guards to, yeah, come and rescue someone. But before we start there, how have you been, sir? How are you doing?
Oh, I'm fucking fabulous. How are you?
I'm all good. Oh, yes, just to let you know, my brother here, he does like to swear. So, strap yourself in and yeah, let us go. Let's go. I'm glad to hear you're okay because you had a hurricane, which came into your life about, and I mean, not like some metaphorical hurricane, an actual hurricane about 2 weeks after we spoke. Wasn't that correct?
Yeah, that's Hurricane Ida. That bitch swirled right the fuck on over my hometown of Baton Rouge, Louisiana. It was a hot mess. I didn't know if my house was going to stand or what. If it weren't for my two cats and the coronavirus, I wouldn't have stayed there for the storm, but I had to watch out for my kitties. Once I had them secured and everything like that, I left fucking town. We won't be doing this shit again. It's not cute. It's not cute at all. But we did survive, and storms like that are proof that global warming is real. That thing just rapidly intensified in a way they didn't think it was, like right before it came on land. Took its good sweet time, just moseying on through. It took that thing. It got to my house, I think, around 11 p.m. I think maybe no, 8 p.m. and it leave till like 1 a.m. But in terms of the eye of the storm, but that thing was huge. We were getting the wind and the rain come around like noon Sunday morning. It didn't really, the eye of it didn't get to my house till like 8 p.m. and then it didn't leave till 1 a.m. That's how slow that thing was, just moving on through, hanging out, having a kiki, saying hey to everybody. We like the fast ones. We don't really like any of them, but if you're gonna have them, some of them move through so fast. That bitch was just hanging out and marinating and shit.
You know what? When you say hurricane, when I hear hurricane, the only time there was a hurricane that I can remember in the UK, this was 1987. And yeah, there was a lady who called up the BBC weather bureau and went, yes, I believe there's a hurricane coming. And the guy was like, no, 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 no. There's no hurricane coming here. And when it did hit, oh my Lord, it wrecked everything. So when I hear hurricanes, it's like, I've seen one in my lifetime that I can recall. And it destroyed a lot of things. But yeah, I mean, it was brief, to say the least. But like, yeah, how many hurricanes have you gone through? And was this the worst?
Shit. One tends to lose count when you're raised in the South. I probably would say maybe 5. And to my knowledge, yeah, this one here was the worst. I'm moving back to Los Angeles anyway, where we just have simple shit like earthquakes. Just a little bit of rumbling and whatnot. Every kind of disaster knocks the power out, but at least in an earthquake, you don't have to deal with being wet and tornadoes and floods and on top of a loss of power, so.
Yeah, like, hey, like going back to LA, that's sort of bucking the sort of trend of like California. Everyone gets out and you're going into California.
There is no place I've ever felt more at home than in Los Angeles, California. So everyone can leave if they want to. There's just more real estate for me. It's not your state, but I know what you mean. There's a mass exodus of people leaving California, going to Texas, places that are not quite so expensive as California. I get it.
Yeah. Yes, indeed. Now, I have to ask. Now, when we last spoke, yes, you were talking about like creating a scene, you and some others, to bring the attention of the prison guards because someone was the worst for wear, from what I can remember. Yeah.
Right. We were locked up in Harris County Jail in Houston, Texas, wearing our fabulous orange jumpsuits and everything like that. And I don't care what they say, honey, orange is not the new black. That is a hideous fucking color to be seeing all day, every day. Just a sea of orange is just tragic, really. And it's orange everything: socks, underwear, the whole suit that you wear. Pretty sure we had orange fucking shoes. It's just, in case you make a run for it, everybody can know, look for the prisoner who's escaped orange. So nobody in their right fucking mind would go out with that much orange on ever. So but they don't really give a fuck about you and you in jail. You have a lot of the guards and everything who look down upon you for being there. Of course, they have their own insecurities. So if they're able to step on somebody, then that makes them feel better about themselves. And we see that sort of thing perpetuated across all kinds of different scenarios in society. Somebody has authority over somebody. They use that authority to belittle the person who's already, in this case, locked up, can't go out nowhere, can't, completely at the mercy of the prison system. And yet you're going to go ahead and push us down even further and throw a little dirt on us and kick us since we're already down there just for good measure. And so no, this kid was sick, throwing up and shit and everything like that. And we're trying to tell the guards he needs to go to the infirmary. They did not care about anything we had to say. These are the same people who kept freezing us every night. They would come in there and make fun of us for not being straight and say all kinds of shit. It's not like we got cell phones. We can't record it and it's going to be our word against theirs. So they know there's anything that we can do. And so since they were not going to let this individual go to the doctor, since we were asking it nicely, the only thing that we could resort to was to cause a scene. Okay, bitch, we tried to do this the right way, but we do have other methods that we are more than willing to resort to if you gonna be that way. And so we had him lay on the floor. And I'm learning about what this is as we go. It's not like I'm a career criminal at this point in time. So I'm learning and just doing my little part. So he lays on the floor. Everybody gets ready on the count of 3. Whoever was leading this whole shenanigans counted 1, 2, 3. Then everyone got super loud and started yelling. Very, very dramatic shit. You're like, oh my God. And oh, Jesus, Lord, have mercy. No. Oh, Lord, y'all. Oh, he died. Oh.
I see the finest Oscar work you can like muster. It's like
fine Oscar, Emmys, Tonys, everybody. And just you just imagine it, about maybe 60 people yelling super loud at the top of their lungs all at one time. The guards came in there in about like 2 seconds after we made all of that ruckus, and they saw him on the floor, and then they're like, oh shit, I guess he needs to go to the doctor. And so then they put him on a gurney, and then they carry him on out, and of course he was doing his part well, laying out on the floor like, yeah.
like laying on the floor like, woe is me. I seem to have come down with something.
Right.
Look upon yonder prisoner who is like fallen by sickness. I don't know, but yeah.
So, but that's what we had to do. And he did go get the care that he needed. He wasn't so sick that he could not have walked to the infirmary. This was a tall ass, kind of big dude. So because of their assholiness, and they got to carry his ass there since they didn't want to act right. And so, but that's the type of shit you have to do to survive in jail. The prisoners, the other people locked up with you are against you. The workers are against you. You come out there like a rabid fucking animal by the time it's all said and done.
Yeah. What, your time in prison and everything like this, what do you think, was there a new lesson you learned about yourself? While you were there? Did you discover something new about yourself?
During that time is when I discovered that I actually was not going to die from having HIV, because I'm not gonna say they tricked me, but I'm gonna say they handled it with more finesse. I was just hanging out in the cell one day because where the fuck else would I be? And they tell me I'm going to the ID clinic. So I'm like, oh, okay. And this is right when I got there. I'm like, okay, so they're gonna go take my picture or something. This is gonna be great. And so then I get down there, and they send me, and it's like a doctor's office. I'm like, where the fuck am I? And they're like, oh, this is the infectious disease clinic. That's what the ID stands for. And so I'm like, oh, you bitches. So they didn't tell me infectious disease, I might not would have gone. Because from the beginning of having HIV, I hated the fact that the people who treat you are called infectious disease. That just made me feel even more contagious and dirty than I already did. And I wish they would call it something less severe, just the fucking clinic or some shit. Why do you have to say infectious disease? And so, but at any rate, I talked to a doctor there when I was locked up who was competent and very caring and very finessed in his approach. He wasn't like the first doctor who left a voicemail with my original positive diagnosis telling me not to go infect other people. This doctor here was different. He was breaking it down. He was breaking down the science to me. He was getting into like genotypes and, different strands of HIV and how the medicine can work. And he made it make such logical sense. I couldn't say no. And that was a turning point that I stopped thinking that I was going to die, any day now from HIV to, okay, I'm actually not going to die. We have a plan in place. This makes sense to me. Now I got to figure out how the fuck I'm going to pay back all these taxes and bills and shit that I decided to abandon when I thought I was going to die, because I wasn't paying no more shit. I'm like, fuck it, I'm going to die. I'm going to just smoke up, drink up, and shoot up all this money and turn up for the rest of my few days. And so now I'm like, oh, fuck, I'm actually going to not die. Now we got to figure this shit out.
Would you say when, after you had that conversation with the doctor, it was a case of hope rekindled?
It was a glimmer. It was a flicker. The hope was rekindled, but at the same time, it was very daunting because I knew the task ahead to rebuild. How am I going to get another car again? How am I going to get another apartment? How am I going to get another job? That's overwhelming. And so you see, when somebody's homeless or they're in and out of jail, and people say stupid shit like, well, why don't they just go get help? Well, bitch, it's not that easy. It takes a long time to bring somebody fully back to life. Once they've lost everything, or once when they're institutionalized so much to the point that they're more accustomed to the way prison works than the way it works on the outside.
No, because like this is the thing. Now I agree with you. Like trying to rebuild is like so much harder, so much more difficult. And like when you like talking, okay, like going from okay, yeah, I was doing this, doing that, doing this, and now coming out of prison, it's not like yes, everyone's going to be rushing to like, hey, here's a job, hey, here's this, hey, here's that. So it's like trying to rebuild because you can tear a life down instantly in no time at all. But building a life and rebuilding a life, I think rebuilding a life sometimes is even harder because like even though you might go, yeah, I've changed to many people, people like go, no, I see you in that context, and look, I don't trust you. And like it's a case of I don't know. Sometimes like the people who are trying to rebuild their lives don't sometimes trust themselves, you know?
Well, it's hard for you to find a reason to. You're not, no one can rely on you. And then your reliability on yourself at that point is reduced to basic survival. Like how am I going to eat every day or find drugs every day? And that's pretty much the extent of the expenditure of your energy. And no, people don't trust you. People have built-in prejudices, things they've seen other people go through that they project onto you. Like when I first got arrested the first time, and one of my siblings found out. I say one because I have, one sister, one brother, and my eldest brother, the step brother, he stays in jail all the time. And so I'll just say one or the other that way, I don't get into no shit because if we're talking about the other one, the one I have negative shit to say about. Well, real shit, but it's also negative. So when I first got arrested, this one called me crying and hollering, talking about I'm gonna die, and everything, and just being all very dramatic. Didn't ask what was going on, perhaps what my perspective was. They were projecting upon me from previous family members who have maybe overdosed on cocaine and shit. They didn't die, but it's still very traumatic to see this happen. This was my first round with drugs, so you don't know why I'm doing what I'm doing. You already calling me with your mind made up on how bad it could be. And so that's that's an example. But we won't say anything about when this particular sibling was low on cash and borrowing money from me and then selling her prescription drugs to strangers that she would meet up with in the park. And that's something our parents don't know to this day, to my knowledge, or really anybody else, because I don't go run my mouth about shit. And I'm saying it now, but if that sibling, ever hears this and wants to go and say that they're the one who did it, well, that's on you.
Yeah. No.
But the hypocrisy of it all, and which anybody who criticizes somebody else is a hypocrite, whoever you are. And I'm not talking about political criticisms or stuff like that. I'm talking about judgy shit like that. Like you are a bad person and you're going to do something bad because of the choices you've made. And I just think that that's going to be that case. This same sibling told me not to come around their children. I was no longer allowed to at their house. Once I was going through. Now, I hadn't gone over there and done anything. I hadn't stolen nothing. I hadn't even much stepped foot over there. They just figured I would. So they were like, let's just get ahead of this. And you know what? We know you're kind. You drug people, you street people, you all are the same. So just don't come around here no more. And the same sibling told their children not to eat after me because I had hepatitis B and HIV. And children gonna repeat everything you tell them. And so they're like, our parent told us not to eat after you because
It's like going, what? It's like you're going, okay. It's like that's awkward.
First of all, I don't go around sticking my food in other people's mouths like that. I don't take to feeding children. I ain't even much that type of person.
Yeah.
And they can feed their damn self. And okay, and then who the hell, you can't really catch and diseases off of, silver spoons and shit like that. That's that fear mongering bullshit that people have about them. And one of my siblings is very much that way. I just actually fired that particular sibling and deleted them from my social media because this same sibling was the one who, when our aunt died a few months ago, tried to bring up my past from 9 years ago to manipulate me, because this sibling decided, even though our aunt died without life insurance because she wanted to go to the riverboat casino and gamble all of her money away every month, instead of getting life insurance, because she was convinced that Jesus was going to come and take her up in the rapture. Hallelujah. Well, that didn't happen. The bitch died without fucking money. And I was like, burn her ass and cremate her. You don't get options when you don't have money. And so my mom did not want to, it was her sisters, or my mom did not want to do that. She didn't want people to know that she didn't have money. People in the South like to save face and be really fake and act like shit's not what it's not. I was like, okay, well, you're gonna ask the church that that you be attending to, for help? No. Then what's the fucking point of attending the church if you're in time of need and you can't go to them? So I didn't argue the point, whatever. It was gonna be about like 10,000, and this particular sibling decided that 3 children should all divide it 3 ways. And I was like, hell to the no. I'm not giving you almost $3,000 for somebody who was irresponsible in life. And now on the back end, my mom wants to be fake about it and not tell people, look, she didn't have life insurance and we need help to pay for this. She just wanted to handle it quietly. And so I told the sibling, like, no. Then they got mad. They insulted me, called me entitled and selfish and everything, which I thought was a strange thing, since I only talked to either of my siblings maybe 2-3 times a year. I could not characterize them. I wonder how they could have such a firm assessment of who I am when for the last decade we only talked 2-3 times a year, briefly. Then they were like, because our parents did this for you back then, you owe them this now. And I was like, no, you're not going to make me do anything I don't want to do. And then the insults came. And then they wanted to talk about how when I went through being homeless and everything, how they went through stuff. And I was like, okay, I could see that taking an emotional toll on you. If you ever want to have a positive, mature conversation about it one day, I'm down to do that. But what's not going to happen is you're not going to insult me, say negative things to me, and tell me how to spend my money because of what our parents did for me almost 10 years ago. That's not going to happen. And when people get comfortable with their family members, and this is why I promote people firing their family members, finding you quality family members of your own choosing, who are not going to take you for granted and think no matter how they treat you, no matter what they say, you always going to be there because we're family. Fuck that shit. That gives people a beeline to manipulate you and abuse you. People have driven themselves to an early fucking grave over their blood family. Now, I overlooked the bullshit a few years ago when she was shit. When that particular sibling was being a total bitch about my situation. But I couldn't get past this one here. I was waiting for maybe some sort of outreach to have that healthy conversation that didn't come. And I'm like, our relationship is at an impasse. You can't say shit like that to me and try to manipulate me and then think we just gonna skip off to lunch one day. I was like, what's the point if you sitting around feeling this toxically about me? And what's the point of us, meeting up for drinks like we have done and kikiing and talking about all the good shit, if you really think this about me? And I don't want people around me like that. And whatever it is that they went through when I was going through what I was going through, here's the thing. I was the one on the streets, and I'm not saying this to feel sorry for myself, but just, it's objective, it's the truth. I was walking the streets, sleeping in the back of cars, in and out of dope houses, not a penny that I knew of to my name. You're in an air-conditioned house, you got a car, you got your job, you got clothes, you got food, you taking vacations and everything. So it was emotionally taxing on you, but you still had all of your basic needs met and then some, whereas I did not have none of that. So the world is not going to pity you for whatever you felt like you went through when I was homeless. If we're in the same city, and you were not. One of my siblings is a doctor, one's an engineer.
Mm-hmm.
And we were in the same city, and I was living on the streets.
Yeah, no, it must be very difficult because look, when someone like asks you to help, and when like, okay, for the longest time you were out there by yourself, not getting any support or backup, and then it's like, hey, can you help out with this? It's like, where were you when in my hour of need? Look, okay, yeah, I fucked up. I screwed up. Yeah, I stole, I did drugs and everything like this, but I needed some support to help me get back on my feet. And you weren't there. So it must be kind of like, yeah, all of that type of sort of pressure, like, okay, let's like split that bill 3 ways. Must have been like, no. Uh, as you said, no, that ain't gonna work out. No, like, yeah, rather than sort of deal with it, like by asking for help from other people, the church community and everything like this. No, it was like, yeah, sweep it under the carpet, sweep this under the carpet. In some respects, sweep yourself under the carpet because you know what? If you're not around, you're definitely not a problem on the radar. I I could be wrong in saying this, and I'm not trying to judge your family, but it's just the vibe I get from how you're talking about it, you know?
It's difficult to quantify because we don't live in the same cities
Mm,
anymore, so we've naturally grown apart. And I'm okay with that. Um, I don't know what all help my siblings may have given towards, paying for like my attorney or hotels when I was out there. I don't know. It's never
mm,
been spoken.
mm,
And, my mom is like, she had a good attitude about it all. She was like, okay, I'm choosing to do this funeral this way. If you can help, great. If not, not a big deal. You got your own shit going on. That attitude is why I ended up giving more than I originally was because my mom didn't try to force me.
mm,
And so I was like, okay, if you're gonna be humble about it, I'm gonna go ahead and make it rain on you. And and then when people, in terms of whatever it did cost to help me back then, like one day my dad was tripping about how much it costs. I don't know, 5,000 or whatever for hotels and stuff like that. He's the one, he was just being very dramatic and shit. And my mom was like, it don't matter how much it costs, if that's what it costs to keep my child alive, then we did what we needed to do. And we're not worrying about that no more. And so it's two different perspectives. So I have a sibling, and a dad who wants to count up the cost.
mm-hmm,
My mom who's like, well, fuck it, they're still alive. Who gives a damn how much it costs? And I think she has the better sense because most people would give, instead of having to have had buried the youngest child, as opposed to have money and then everyone has jobs to eventually pay that back. Which, I mean, what's the better choice, a dead child or some dead? And we're not talking millions here. I'm guessing maybe 5 to 10,000, maybe 15.
mm-hmm.
That's not a high price to pay to help to keep somebody alive.
Mm. So yeah, so you did like get back up from like your mother, and yeah, so it was like, yeah, they were there for you in that sort of situation, like trying to get back up, trying to get back to your feet. I have to ask, look, after getting out of prison, like, was it a case of, yeah, you immediately, okay, time to start the rebuild, start to get my like life in order, trying to get things back on track, or was it a stumble or a fumble on the way?
Oh, it was all kinds of stumbling and fumbling. But I will say, in terms of like you mentioned, like stealing, I never stole from my family.
Mm-hmm.
And I rarely stole at all. I think I could count on one hand, and it was from other like drug users or drug dealers and stuff like that. I never really had to because since I was a drug dealer and I had a name on the street, it was not difficult for me to acquire drugs to use. I didn't even have to pay for it all the time, because I had street credibility.
Mm.
And so I didn't have to go lurking around, in people's houses stealing shit. I wasn't that type of person. And so And shit, what was the oh yeah,
Yeah.
rebuilding. So no, I get out of jail like on Thanksgiving. I immediately want to go and get high. It's not no. I had been locked up 2 months. I hadn't been outside one time in that 2 months. I was pissed off. I wanted to go get somewhere where I can inject me some crystal fucking meth. I don't want to be bothered with no damn body. And this is just the way it was gonna go.
Mm.
And that's what the fuck I ended up doing. I told my parents not to come pick me up from jail. I would find my own way. They insisted still on being there. And I was like, no, they took me to one of my siblings' apartment. I did not want to be there because I had had a bad experience with them when I stayed with them temporarily for a few days, and they became abusive and everything. So I walked off, and I didn't want to go back there. And I told them that, and they took me there anyway. And then so I was like, yeah, I'm going to hang outside for some fresh air. And I just never came back in there. And I went and found me my drugs to get high, like I told them I wanted to do. You see, when people are, what a dope fiend or really anybody's telling you what the fuck they do and don't want,
Mm.
you cannot go and be like, no, fuck what you saying. We're just going to do other. No, I told you don't do that. And so you wouldn't force me in this situation anyway. And then I disappeared on the asses. And so, a few weeks later, I ended up transferring my probation from Houston to Baton Rouge. I move out there. No, I went to try to seek out other drug users because, I got accustomed to that community, so, I transitioned from the upper world, corporate America and everything like that into the criminal underworld. Now I'm used to this new community. So asking me to stop being homeless is one thing, to stop this economic system that I now understand how it works in between the drug manufacturers, suppliers, dealers, end users,
Mm-hmm.
delivery drivers, and how all of that works. And I've become somewhat of a master of this. I'm not ready to give that up. You have the same scene no matter what fucking city that you're in. I can go find crack, meth, any kind of drugs I want. I can look at people and tell, I know my people.
Mm-hmm.
A part of me will forever identify with the criminal underworld, no matter how high I go in life. Out there, you still have respectable people. Not everyone is tragic, and people out there, in my opinion, are more humble than other people because they'll say some shit like, look, I know this shit I'm doing not right, but maybe God will change me one day. They own up to the bullshit. They're like, I'm on some bullshit.
Mm.
But who knows what tomorrow may hold. They don't try to act like shit not what it ain't. you know,
Yeah.
so they more real on the streets.
Yeah. Like, because like this is the thing, when you like say you transferred from like, yeah, the corporate world to like, yeah, like this sort of like the underworld, like the criminal sort of like routine of things. Like from my sort of standpoint, both worlds have their own rules. Both worlds like operate in a certain way. But I like I'd say sometimes the corporate world is less truthful about who the people are and how it operates compared to like, yeah, like a criminal world, like the underworld of like crime, like crime and grime, yeah, crime and grime. But where did you say like, did you feel comfortable in both worlds, or was one getting a little bit too comfortable for you?
I hated corporate life
Mm.
because that's just not really who I am. I like independence. I like the freedom to come and go as I please. That's what I have now. When I was homeless and just drug dealing, I had the same thing. I get up when the fuck I wanted to. I can go here when I wanted to. I'm that same way now because I don't work for anybody. And so depends on your personality. My personality, I don't like to be beholden to people. I don't like a bitch to be like, we need you here by this time, and you can only go to lunch now, and we
Mm.
need oh hell to the no. I did it because that's what I felt like I needed to do to make money, but I was never truly fulfilled. And so it was natural for me to learn how to sell drugs because I have a business mind. I didn't realize how much of a business mind I had. I knew I had business inclinations, but I picked that shit up so easy. but a lot of males in my family have history of selling and using drugs. I came to find out later on, and after it was all kind of like getting behind me, I'm finding all this shit out about my family history that they didn't tell me before. I'm all like, so this shit was basically in my blood. It was gonna come out eventually. Why the fuck did y'all all shield me from this? And so y'all should have told me the truth about our family background and just how fucking criminal it really is. And then perhaps I would have been better prepared. They didn't let me out the yard when I was a child. I didn't know we were living in Crackville where you can get all the weed and crack you want. I know that now. But, instead of telling me, look, we would prefer you not to go out the yard because there's drug dealers. I saw a syringe one time just floating down the street when in a heavy rain pour and stuff like that, and open probably used syringe and everything. I didn't really understand what it was. So instead of in the South, they don't like explain shit to children. They're like, we're the adults, you're a child, the adults are talking, you don't have any rights to the table, you can't be angry at adults, we just gonna handle everything, and we're gonna put forth this fake ass image like we have it all figured out, even though we don't. And so I was mad at my family. I'm like, y'all should have prepared me better for life. Nobody told me about drugs. Nobody talked to me about sex. That the sex talk wasn't like this. One day my dad was driving around with me and my brother, and he pulled some condoms out of the glove compartment. He was like, here, use these. The end.
So, it's like, why do we need balloons, Dad? Why do we need it's like, use these for what? It's like, okay, I made a dog. I made a giraffe. No. Yeah.
That was the beginning and the ending of all the sex education from my household. One time he tried to do it when we were like much younger, and I remember I just acted like I didn't know what he was talking about. We may have been like 5 or 6, and he was trying to talk to us about sex, and I was able to make him uncomfortable enough to stop by just being all weird about it and shit, even though I knew what he was talking about, and he gave in to that. So what he should have done was press through that and said it anyway. But he really didn't want to fucking do it. And then when he did the condom thing, I think we may have been in middle of high school, so we were well aware of shit at that point. But that was all the talk we got in the story, and then the rest I learned from Scrabble Vision, trying to watch Skinamax, Showtime, Red Shoe Diaries, Real Sex. That's how I learned about life.
Yeah, well, yeah, Skinamax. That's all the sex education you need. Skinamax. That's like, thank God. That's how bad Skinamax is. I actually know. I understand the reference. It's like, yeah, Skinamax. Isn't that some type of yeah? It's okay, right? No, but like this is the thing. Now with yourself. Okay, what would you say was the sort of point? Okay, like bad sexual education and all of that, like sort of growing, developing. But like, what was the sort of turning point from you like operating in that world to like going, hey, you know what? There's a other way. There's a better way of doing things, or it's just different.
It was gradual. It was by and by, here and there, line upon line, precept upon precept. So the Veterans Affairs Department has a program called HUD Bash that is set aside housing for homeless veterans that will give you a free apartment if you qualify for the program. Basically, if you fucked up enough, they'll give you a free apartment. And that's how I was able to get one of those after rehab, because I went to New Orleans acting a fool, and I acted so much of a fool that I was back in the mental hospital again for like the second or third time. And they were like, okay, you going straight to rehab from the mental hospital. And they put me on an ambulance. It took me from New Orleans to Shreveport. That's like a 4-hour drive.
Thank God.
And so they didn't let me get back out. No, you got to go right into rehab, period. So I acted that much of a damn fool. And so after rehab, and I got high in rehab, I waited till like the last weekend though. And I got back, got the apartment, then I started being a janitor at a VA hospital through another program for fucked up veterans. And so that was the first job I had after being homeless and losing everything. So the apartment I got from the VA, the job I had, it paid like minimum wage, tax free, that sort of thing. And the idea was for you to work there, people can get used to you, and then you can get a regular job at the VA. That's how the program's supposed to work. That didn't happen because the VA is janky and they full of bitches, and some people just don't like, they just didn't like me because, like you say, they, like I was saying earlier, they judge me because they know people who were in that program, the compensated work therapy program, are people who were troubled, homeless veterans. And some people just really looked down upon me. They made problems, made things, just made my job a lot harder as a janitor. Again, I'm already a janitor cleaning up shit and all kinds of bodily fluids in this medical facility. And while I'm down there, then they're just gonna kick me even more so they can make their insecure asses feel better about themselves. Well, they kicked me one too many times, and one day I just walked the fuck up out of that bitch. And it was after like a year and a half, though. That by then they should have fucking promoted me. I kept applying for different jobs at the VA, and they kept hiring other people. I have a bachelor, several associates. You know, the whole point of the program is for you to not, for your past not to be held against you. Well, they didn't do that for me. So I left, and then I started doing delivery, food, driving, and that's how I got into the service industry. Then I started doing catering weddings for catering companies. Then I ended up working at restaurants, and then the time had came for me to be able to get my massage therapy license, because before I got HIV, I had done a year of massage therapy school out in Texas, because I was already coming up with ways to get into business for myself, because I knew I didn't like being in corporate America. But I stopped because I got HIV, and I was like, oh fuck, so I started school all over again. But in Louisiana, you have to have, I think, 5 years since you were on probation or since the arrest happened. So there was some time. So I looked into it. The VA still paid for that, for the education. So that's how I was able to go to school while I was waiting tables. And once I was done with school, then I opened up my massage therapy business. And so it was gradual. Now, during all this time, I'm still getting high off and on. Granted, I'm doing it less than what I did when I was in Houston. So I'm not doing drugs damn near every day. It's every couple of days. I got more into crack in Baton Rouge. It was easier to find than meth. And so I learned how to shoot up crack and everything, boiling it down on the spoon with the lighter and everything. And so, because I still felt more comfortable going out, talking to people on the street, as opposed to going to a club. I mean, then I started to do both, maybe go to the club a little, but I still, would just go walk down the street and just find people to talk to, or go find some dick from some random dude walking down the street. I had got so accustomed to that. It took just years of back and forth and back and forth. And I was on probation for like 5 years. Fortunately, I never got drug tested. But even if I had failed a drug test, a probation officer does not have to make you go back to jail. It's up to them to work with you. If they, depends on your attitude and everything. And so eventually, I opened the massage therapy business. I started DownUnder Apparel, my underwear store at a flea market, because it was difficult to get a job anywhere. Everybody was concerned about what I did back in 2012, even though by now it's like 2016, 2017, they don't care. It's hard to get a job with felonies.
Yeah, no, like this is the thing. I think one of the things when looking at from the UK, people's records are held against like people like any ex-felon in America a lot more with regards to sort of finding employment, getting on by. But like this is the thing, like I got to say, your story like of you getting back is like very compelling, because look, don't get me wrong, it's like anyone who goes, yes, it's a straight line when you're climbing. Straight line up is an idiot, in my opinion. It's like, yeah, you want to do anything in life, there's going to be the ups, downs, the peaks and troughs. Like get you to where you are. It's never a straight line. It's a hard ascent. And like, look, for you going, okay, yeah, look, the VA, like sort of being there for you, but sometimes not being there completely. But it kind of, I'd say it kind of like sort of hardened you, like made you more sort of like, okay, look in the mirror, go, yeah, you know what? If anyone's gonna like really help me get out of this, thank you for this like slight assist, but I'm gonna have to like, yeah, pull forward. Look, frig, going back, going back to school, like doing your like massage therapy, going like one you got that, like then like going, you know what? I need to start something. Start with a flea market. Do your underwear apparel store. That's you know what I mean. That's great stuff. And like this is the thing. I don't like. There's a hell of a lot more to come with this conversation. I'm sure of it. But like this is like getting those two things in place. You had to rely on yourself to like make that happen and making that choice to make that change. Look, like, okay, people go, but yeah, he was still doing crack in the meantime. It's like, look, like the amount of people who are functioning alcoholics out there, the amount of people who like go to pill mills out there, like trying to get like still functioning, trying to get their shit together, it doesn't come easy. And if it did come easy, dear God, look, there would be no such thing as addiction, you know? It's like madness, madness. So, like, so with this, like, underwear apparel, like, what else did you get into, like, to sort of like start pulling yourself up?
I became a licensed minister to orchestrate weddings. I became a bartender. Um, I started doing private parties. I had about 5 fucking different business cards at one point in time, and I was just hustling my ass off because at this point I knew that I never wanted to work for anybody else again because it just seems like whenever you do something wrong, they just discard you anyway.
Mm.
So at least with me, and so I just couldn't. So I'm like, we just, since we're already down and we don't have anything and we have this free apartment from the VA, even though they won't hire me, at least I don't have to worry about being homeless anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Because you stay in that program until you have to until you make enough money to not qualify for it anymore. So I'm like, well, since we have this, let's use this to our advantage and let's try different shit. Let's see what we can do to generate money now and then build our life on this moving forward. Okay. And then we'll just kind of like go from there. And it's much easier. It would have been much easier to just stay in the dope house, fucking and getting high on drugs every day. And not everybody has, the VA behind them. Not everybody's an honorably discharged veteran. It took the VA, my parents, my spiritual leader, it took a great team of people to
Mm.
help me, not everybody has that. I have a great deal of empathy for people who just choose to stay in the drug world or just stay homeless because maybe you can't pull yourself back up. Other people have to pull you up first, and then once you can kind of get your head above water a little bit, then you can start. But there ain't no damn way I could have done any of that by myself. It's not possible. And so um and so I mean, short of some kind of miracle, of course, but as they say, the streets be calling. And so
Mm.
as you trying to get away from them streets, they still be calling you back. The shit is fun, it's entertaining, it's fucking enticing out there. The drugs feel so good to your body, you know. And we tend to want to go back to whatever made us feel good. And so, remembering what success was like. Um, I remember the first direct deposit I got from being a janitor. It had been forever. I don't know, maybe a good 2 years or three since I had gotten like a check from a job,
Mm-hmm.
as opposed to making money, selling drugs and stuff like that. I remember I fell to my knees and just cried. It was like maybe $250 or something like that. But, it symbolized a turning point. It didn't mean I was going to stop all the drugs. I tried. I hated, programs, Alcohol Anonymous or Drugs and Narcotics Anonymous. I hated group therapy. I hate
Mm.
hearing other people fucking bitch about their problems. I hate groups. group therapy. It's like I would go to them feeling good and leave there feeling worse after listening to a bunch of grown ass people whine and bitch about shit. I'm like, God, now I need to go get high. Fuck, I wasn't gonna do drugs today, but after leaving this drug group, I think I will.
Yeah, would you say that's a part of the sort of military sort of mindset kicking in? Because, like, look, you've like you served, and like you know what I mean. Much of that is like, look, you do this, don't like that, like no excuses, like you take responsibility for that. Go, 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 soldier. You know what I mean? Would you say it was a bit like that when you were in sort of group therapy, when you heard people like going, yeah, well, my life is going down this sort of path, and it's like going, it's not going well and stuff like this, where you like going, stop talking, stop talking about that, and yeah, take a little bit of responsibility. Was it that type of thing, or was it something else? Would you say that group wasn't working for you?
I didn't see the benefit of it. So we're gonna sit in this circle. The group moderator is gonna ask us how our days are. Somebody's gonna say, yeah, I didn't get high, or no, I did. And a lot of the VA stuff is posing anyway. They're coming there to act like they need to act in order to keep their benefits.
Hmm.
And it's just there is benefit to hearing other people going through the same thing that you're going through. I just maybe I didn't identify with them. Maybe because maybe they weren't, maybe all of them identified seemingly as straight, or then being a drug dealer put me in a position where I didn't really identify with anyone in the room, because most people are drug users, not drug dealers. You know, as you go higher up the underworld hierarchy, you have less people like any other hierarchy.
Mm.
So it's hard to identify with somebody who was not a drug dealer. Or and then in my drug use, I was mainly a meth user. And that's a whole another thing that separated me from them, because most people do not do meth. And most people are going to be on cocaine or weed, or, or crack or something like that. Even within the drug world, meth is one of those things that will make a heroin addict clutch their pearls and gasp. You know, the meth users are the most looked down upon, even within the criminal underworld. Like, people will be like, I got my heroin and my crack, but damn, it's not like it's meth or anything. Those people are really fucked up.
Yeah, it's like you're like, look at that. Really? It's like we're sitting across the table from each other. Like, look, and it's like, hey, you really? We go to the same dealer, really? It's like, it's a crazy thing, crazy thing. Like, so with all of this, now I'm just, I'm sort of always curious about like when people sort of turn things around, and like, yeah, like what would you say, like, did like what totally was the lot, like the thing what went, yeah, like I'm no longer a drug dealer, like CEO of like my little drug enterprise, to like, yeah, I'm now a CEO of, yeah, at Sex, Drug, and Jesus. Then like, yeah, basically doing your apparel, and doing like, if I remember rightly, you've got like a slight adult site on the side as well. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's downunderapparel.com.
Okay. So yeah, what was that? Like, yeah.
Well, the whole thing that it landed me in rehab, I had you know, gotten, gotten my hands on some money. Um, so I decided that I was going to go to Houston and get like a quarter pound of meth, so I could come back to New Orleans and Baton Rouge and start dealing again. And that did not go that way as well. I ended up in the mental hospital out there in Houston, and then that was a whole thing. And so, now I'm beginning to realize it's not going to be, that former glory is not going to return. You know, so I just stopped trying to deal. You know, because clearly, it just wasn't happening. I wasn't cutthroat enough. I wasn't mean enough. I'm not willing to kill people. And you have to be able to be that way, especially if you're going to be a drug dealer in New Orleans. They have to fear you. And nobody feared me because I wasn't fearful. I didn't carry myself like that. And so, um, yeah, other than that, man, it just, when I was in Miami like 2 years ago, right around February last year, so maybe like a year and 3/4, I was like doing some X, and I got so fucking sick, I got the flu somehow in Miami, and yeah, I was sick for like a month when I got back, and so and that I know of, I didn't have the Rona because we couldn't test for it then, but we could test for the flu, and I was positive for the flu, and so and that was when I started going back to Narcotics Anonymous. I was like, oh my god, that was like a bottom floor for me, and from that time on, I didn't do. I had that was when I was like, okay, drugs are not for me. When that happened, and so those would be like the major turning points or the cataclysmic things that happen that caused me to have an epiphany.
Mm-hmm.
But I've continued to evolve. And then once I got into the anonymous programs, actually got a sponsor for the first time because of the pandemic. Created all these virtual rooms and everything like that around the world, so you can attend crystal meth anonymous meetings, for instance, in Europe, from your home. It sprouted all of that, and so since people weren't going nowhere in person, and so I was able to attend the crystal meth anonymous in San Francisco. I refused to go to a CMA meeting in Louisiana because I would only be in the room with the same people I used to get high with. So what would be the fucking point? We're probably just gonna relapse. So, so I was able to find a sponsor who I identified with enough to try. We're currently working. We're like on 10 of 12. Um, I'm not going to repeat them again. I don't care for the anonymous program. I think a more like harm reduction approach is better, but there's different options to getting sober, and in sobriety is different definitions for different people. Now that's a whole other rabbit hole there. The discrepancies I have with the anonymous programs, my thoughts of sobriety and what it should be, my thoughts on relapse and what should constitute that, and everything like that, have changed since I first started it.
How so?
Well, the first line of bullshit that I heard from the anonymous programs, and they all are based on Alcoholics Anonymous. They all pull from that same model, the same thinking. It's a very religious program, even though sometimes they try to say they're not. Yeah, they are. And which I don't have a problem with that. For somebody who's agnostic or doesn't give a fuck about anything spiritual is not going to like those programs. They're not going to be able to constantly ignore things like higher power and God and stuff like that, because it's the core of the whole program. So from AA, Alcoholics Anonymous, Branch, Crystal Meth Anonymous, Narcotics Anonymous, Sex Anonymous, all of them, are under the same fucking umbrella. But, Crystal Meth Anonymous, Alcoholics Anonymous, they don't define wait a minute. They don't define tobacco and caffeine as mood and mind altering substances. And when I read that, I was like, bitch, please. Everybody knows that both of those are mood and mind altering substances. You take cigarettes to relax, and you take coffee to fucking wake up. You do it to affect the change upon your physiology. The whole point of it is to alter your fucking mood. You're not just smoking a cigarette for the flavor and swirling it around. You're not swishing around coffee and spitting it out like at a wine tasting or some shit. Even my sponsor, he's like, oh, I cannot get up in the morning without coffee. Your ass is dependent upon the caffeine. I'm not gonna say it's an addiction, but don't try to tell me that it's not a mood and mind altering substance, bitch. And then when I asked him what his thoughts were on it, he told me the program does not define it as such. And so you didn't answer my question. You told me what the program said. And I'm not gonna let myself get in a situation like I have a program telling me what the fuck to think. Now, when a person is new, okay, it provides structure and shit like that. But then once you sober up and you begin to analyze what you're working with, I begin to find discrepancies with it. And I'm not going to stay in something that doesn't come across as whole to me. And Another thing is they don't ever ascribe to you healing. They want you to stay in this program for the rest of your life and work these 12 steps again and again and again. They want you to continue to call yourself an addict every time you say something. And my whole thing is like, why are we reinforcing the negative? Why would I keep calling myself an addict if that's what I'm trying to not be? And they don't feel like you can ever stop being an addict. They say once an addict, always an addict, or once an alcoholic, always an alcoholic. They disguise it as humility, saying you don't want to get too confident, least you fall. But my whole thing is, if this is a spiritual program, why, and I believe in Jesus Christ and he has all power, then why the fuck can't he heal me of being an addict and I don't have to be one anymore?
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't make sense to me. And so now everybody gets to pick their own higher power. So if you want to worship this fucking desk, then that can be your higher power, or the group can be your higher power, or the group conscious or whatever. So then some people's higher power is going to have limited abilities where others won't, you know. So it's not consistent across the board. It's a lot of flexibility and wiggle room in the program. And so my sponsor was saying his thinking of the healing aspect is, okay, you can have drugs in front of you and not use them. But I think I did an experiment a couple of months ago. I did me some drugs out of like more of like a rebellious thing. Like, how dare this program tell me I can't? The more you tell people what they can't do, the more they want to defy you.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I bet you I can do drugs and not lose everything, because it's a fear-based thing, and I don't like that, because the Hebrew Bible tells us that God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind. And they're trying to use fear to keep you in place. My sponsor was telling me, a saying that he picked up is that whatever you put before your sobriety, you will lose. He still goes to like 2-3 meetings a fucking day, even though he's been sober for over 2 years. And I'm like, why are you treating yourself like the person who's new still? He's all like, well, if it worked then, it'll work now. But I'm like, you're not graduating out of this program. You're not trying to. You want to do the same shit for the next 50 years, but you are no longer addicted. So it seems to me you should be rewarded with less meetings or something like that, if anything. And so I don't like the fact that there is no healing. I don't like the fact that there's no absolution of being an addict. I don't like the fact they want you to continue to call yourself an addict each and every time you say something. And they use fear to try to motivate you. They say if you use this drug, then you're going to lose everything, your houses, your cars, and all of that. And then they try to say everything you've gained in your life is because of this program. And I'm like, no, there's been a lot of different factors that has led to my success, not just this fucking program. I'm not going to hang all of my hopes on this program, because when the bullshit comes, and it already has, then I won't be disappointed and all bitter and mad like I was back when I did my experiment. But I've come to understand that lots of people have done the same thing.
Yeah, no, because I can understand like how some people can have difficulties with like a program like that. Like if like it's a case of like if you tell someone they're stupid, like time and time again, and you told that person to tell themselves they're stupid time and time again, it's a case of you don't look at this like, yeah, solve this problem. No, I can't because I'm stupid. Like, I understand that. I get that. Like with regards to like programs which just like goes, okay, you're all coming out of this cookie cutter, and it's like going, no, look at the individual, like understand the individual. And like, yeah, if you kind of deal with each person on that sort of individual basis, a 12-step program might work for one person. It might be a 5-step program for another person, or it might be a 100-step program for another person. Like, I have to say, when you like, oh yeah, you did the experiment with the whole drug side of things, like, okay, that is like a pretty damn big gamble right there, because hey, it's like, okay, I understand why they go, yes, if you go back to that, you might lose it all. It's a case of you don't know what that relationship is going to be with that. And look, when you're talking about, yeah, like, yeah, my life with on drugs and stuff like this, there is like as much as it's been destructive for you, you do have this sort of era of like, it was destructive, but there was part of me which never felt quite so alive than that moment in my life and that moment in my history. And like sort of going back to that, if you fell back into that, the sort of progress you've made, I can understand. Like you can't get hold of the next thing without letting go of the other. So it's like, yeah, like going back, doing that, all of the things what come with that might come back as well. And look, this is the thing, you've made fabulous progress with your life. And sort of like, yeah, going back, I know testing yourself, can I trust myself? Is that me still, or am I someone new? I understand that sort of challenge, but the risk is high and especially for some other people where that risk would be far too great. Can I trust myself? Whatever that drug of choice might be, like, yeah, from like cocaine to like, yeah, alcohol, you know what I mean? It's just like, yeah, bam. How did you fare from that test?
As they say, no risk, no glory.
Okay. Yeah.
And so I did well. I mean, it was basically like kind of like the month of June, maybe like 3 or 4 times. I was traveling a lot then because it was that was that 1 month where it was safe to travel if you were vaccinated before the Delta came to town. And so no, I proved to myself, I tried it. I determined I really didn't naturally like it anymore. And so I stopped. And I haven't touched it since then. And so an addict is somebody who can't stop when they want to stop. You're going to do this and you're going to keep doing it every day, until you do eventually lose everything. That doesn't define an addict. If I was able to just shoot up meth on Monday and then party for 3 days and then not do the shit again for another 3 months, then I never would have been an addict. So I proved to myself that I do have the control to start and stop. But I also learned, as you stated, that I really actually didn't truly enjoy it the way I used to, and it's not really who I am anymore. And so even though I could do it, why? I don't really actually care for it, but I'm not doing it because a program told me not to. It's just, I don't fucking like it anymore. If I wanted to go and shoot me up some meth or smoke me some crack, I could. And I don't think that I would have to keep doing it for the next, month and lose my job and stop doing my shows, not show up for shit and miss appointments. That risk was there, but it meant more to me to take that risk because I was so fucking angry that I had given so much time to this program again. And I almost kind of felt like I was, back at Lakewood, in the church again. And this organization is putting limitations on me and telling me what to think and how I have to be. And I was like, no, fuck all that. Other people have done it. I don't recommend it because, like you said, it is risky. But by the same token, what we focus on and what we believe is the truth. I did not believe that if I did drugs, I had to keep doing them or that I would lose everything. And that's not what happened. But what the program is doing is making you embed that into your subconscious, into your conscious, and into the deepest parts of your beliefs, so that if you do anything, like you feel like catastrophe has happened. And so that's why when somebody relapses after 3 or 4 years of not doing any drugs and they take one fucking drug, now they're in the meetings crying and hollering and acting a fool because they just feel so terrible about themselves. Bitch, you were sober for 5 years. You shot up meth one fucking time. To me, that's phenomenal. And then you back here in this group, and now you feel so bad because of what the group has told you. They told you that if you use one drug, you have to lose everything, and you're just catastrophe and all hell. Clearly, that's not the case. You walk back in here and everything because them over dramatizing everything about it and being all extra is how they fearmonger to try to keep people under control. Instead of saying, after you've been high, after you've been sober for a while, perhaps you no longer will be maybe you can use a drug here and there and be okay. They don't give people both options and say, maybe you should never fuck with it again, or maybe you can gain a level of self control again. I think it should be both fucking ways and not just one or the other. And so now you have what's called harm reduction, which is a thing that's gaining in popularity, where people basically say, I'm going to either use a different drug that's less intense or put myself on a method of slowly stepping down. So if I used to shoot up meth every day, now I'm going to start every other day. And then we're going to lower that to once a week. And we're going to take that to every other week to maybe a couple of times a month, now maybe every other month. And we're going to slowly step ourselves down. I like the harm reduction because you're not taking something from somebody without replacing it with something else. In hypnotherapy training, we learn that if we're gonna like say to get somebody to stop smoking cigarettes, well, you got to replace it with something else, bitch, like chewing gum or something. You can't take something without replacing it because you're gonna leave a void. And
yeah. No, I was gonna say, like, yeah, that sort of instant sort of cold turkey stop. That's like, okay, yeah, you got to stop all of the things what's brought you to this place, like this place where you're in this meeting or in rehab. You like go, yeah, when it instantly stop that, it's like you kind of go, okay, it took a long time for this sort of period to happen. So like to go instantly stop everything, what? It must that must be super beyond super hard to do. Like the harm reduction thing sounds like a good idea. Take like leveling it off bit by bit because it's not one of those things where you went, oh yeah, you know what? I am, yes, addicted to drugs after one time and then my life is ruined. It's a long, painful path to get there. And it's like a hard and a long, painful path to get back to like what you would say, yeah, like homeostasis or like that sort of level playing field where you were before you started this journey. And like, look, one of the things which interests me, how do you like, there's been lots of things where people most probably defined you in regarding, yes, you were like, yes, you served your country, yes, you like worked in the ministry, yes, you like were like a drug dealer, yes, you were addicted to like a drug head, yes, you like have HIV. How do you define yourself? What when you look in the mirror, what do like how what is the definition, what comes to mind of your life?
well, I am that I am. And so, which to me is the way, and that response comes from the way God responded to Moses when he first introduced himself to him. So when Moses, which is a character from the Hebrew Bible, was tending his flock on the side of, I believe, Mount Horeb in or Mount Sinai is one of them.
I think it was
Uh,
silent.
I think maybe it was Sinai, and the Lord revealed himself to him in the burning bush. They told him to remove the sandals from his feet, for the place where he stands on is holy ground. And Moses asked, "Who are you?" And God said, "I am that I am." And so, and in that moment, I read that as God not being willing to be put in a box or defined one way or the other. I love his response, and from that, I don't feel like I have to be male, female, gay, straight, criminal, not a criminal. I simply exist. And so I am that I am.
Liking that a lot. Like, hey, so like this is the thing. What direction do you want to take your life into next?
Well, I just want it all. And so what I mean by that is
That's a
I
lot of
don't think,
that's right there. It's like,
oh, I'm very, very ambitious. I don't take for granted the second chance I've been given. That's why I have my website, my podcast. That's why I'm writing my books, because God spared me, I believe, to tell the tale And so, not for me to live quietly and peaceably and, for the rest of my days. My life is meant to be on display because everything that happened to me was very public, from being homeless to the rise, to the fall, everything was out on display. None of this was done in a corner, you know. And so let lessons be learned from it. Our podcasting, our books and all of that will outlive us. As long as the earth remains, the media will be there for people to benefit from our transparency. So I want to become more transparent. I want to sell more underwear to people, because that helps people's sex life. It helps their confidence. We have plus size now for men and women, so everybody can feel sexy, and I want to just reach as many people as I can to help them to not do things to hurt themselves. And my message is not really for conservative people who the type of conservative people who like to judge others, say stop them from getting abortions or tell them they don't need to be who they are. I'm not even trying to talk to hard-headed motherfuckers like that, because what can you say? They're already quite pleased with themselves. They feel like they've got enough figured out to be trying to control other people. So my message is for my direction of life is to say what I gotta say as much as I can before I die, whatever kind of way I can.
Mm. Yeah. Excuse me. Windy pops. Excuse me. Yeah. Like, this is the thing, man. Like, I think with regards to yourself, your life, and like how things have gone, I think, yeah, getting your message out there, telling your story is definitely going to be an important thing. And I think it's one of those things where it could help people like sort of like learn and grow. Because one of the things I would say with yourself, look, you've had to really, like, you're one of the few people which have, I would say, in life will have to really taken a good look at yourself through many sort of different realms. Because look, like finding out who you are, like with your sexual identity when you were younger, like finding how that sort of relates to religion, like going into the sort of realms of, yeah, drug use, drug dealing, like criminality, like prison, now coming out on the other side, trying to like work out all of this. Like, there is not a lot of people which have had to like go, hey, who am I at that moment? Or there is not a lot of people who would like actually even bother to ask that question. You get what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Uh, what, like, you must, like, how well do you think you know yourself now?
Better than I ever thought I did. I mean, a lot of that comes with age. And in my mid-20s, you couldn't tell me I didn't know myself, but I don't really think I began to settle into myself till after I was 30.
Mm.
But I know myself more now because I have been in so many different circumstances and situations. Um, and I know myself because I'm now willing to fully accept myself. Whereas before I only half accepted myself because of how the church was.
Mm.
So, and so so no, I don't think there's anything wrong with me for not being straight. I don't think there's anything wrong with me for having felonies or history, the sort of history that I have. And anything, I think that it's a phenomenal thing and that I have more to contribute. So it's all about perspective. And so, and I study a lot of things, metaphysic things and all kinds of stuff, outside of, religion and scriptures, because there's more knowledge out there than what's in the Bible. And the Bible doesn't cover everything we need for this life. And so, I can say that now, I know who I am because I accept every part of myself, finally.
Yeah. No.
But, before the church, they had me so bad, thinking something was wrong with me for not being straight. I went and got a girlfriend and everything to try to become ungay. I did that. I prayed. I got really serious before God. I was praying and fasting and, God, please take this gay away. And people have done this. People have done worse. I was only with her for like 6 months. It was like, no, I still like dick. And so, I dated girls, I had sex with girls and all kinds of stuff, trying to just get ungay. It don't work. People go and marry these women, have all these children, and like 20 years later, they'd be like, you know what, I'm still gay. You know, but that's how fucked up I was in my head. And Netflix has a great documentary called Pray Away.
Oh God, no. It's like, yeah, you know what? Like this event, like when I heard about Pray Away, the gay like camps and like retreats and all of this type of thing, it's like I go, what? It's to me, it's like, what are you talking about? You can't pray something away. Look, that person is that person. And like, yeah, if that's their deal, that's their deal. And trying to like combat that by with prayer, scripture, and everything like this, it's not gonna work. It's just gonna make people miserable and just makes no sense to me. Be who you are. Be who you are, you know?
It made people very miserable. It led to a lot of suicide.
Mm.
Um, because scripture, when it comes down, is merely an interpretation. Everybody, I mean, it's clear. The only thing that's clear to me about the Bible is that it's not clear. When people act like the Bible is clear, no, it isn't. There's like 1,000 different translations of that thing. Why? Because of how many different ways it can be looked at. It's not a simple language it was translated from. And when arrogant ass people try to act like their interpretation of it is the only way it can be interpreted, and if you're not interpreting it the way they're interpreting it, then something's wrong with you. I mean, you either slap them across the face or walk away. You can't even do nothing with ignorance on that level.
Mm.
But I love the documentary that Netflix came out with. It's called Pray Away.
Okay.
Everybody should watch it. And what we had here in the United States was this bullshit ass organization called Exodus. And they were the first organization that promulgated and propped up conversion therapy and took it, I think, international. It was huge. It was a huge thing, Exodus and everything like that. And they had all these people who were getting up there saying that they used to be gay, men and women, and that they're not anymore. And they were going around getting people to come to these conventions and, making all this fucking money off of them and everything, and paying psychiatrists to come in there and to give credibility to them, although no psychiatrist is trained in conversion therapy. It's not in the DSM. The diagnostic of mental health shit is not in there. So all of these people made all this money, was famous, huge fucking organization, conventions and everything. Now they're on this documentary saying, oh, you know what, we're still gay. We're sorry for what we did and all the people we hurt. And but at the same time, I'm like, bitch, you need an ass whooping. You need a fucking ass whooping right now. I'm
Mm.
not for corporal punishment. I don't believe in spanking children, none of that. But these bitches need to be beat. Now, these people that took they monkey asses and led the Exodus program, which mind fucked countless of people over years and years. We're talking about, I think, maybe a few decades now. This organization was fucking gargantuan. And now they're on this documentary saying, oops, never mind.
It's like you know what? My bad. We just, you know how it is. You know, when you follow a certain path of philosophy and then you like think, you know what? We were wrong. It's like going, sorry. Can you get on with your lives now? Wait, we are. Bye bye. So, uh,
I'm glad. Oof. I'm glad they're saying it, and my blood is boiling as I'm talking about this. At least they said something. But oh my god, dude, the amount of people who killed themselves over that shit that they were trying to do to them,
mm,
is, I mean, I can't. At least it's a start. So I'm thankful to have it, and people who are. It's a good way to combat conversion therapy and everything like that. But at the same time, they just get the side eye, the middle finger. Are you just like, bitch, really? Bitch, really? It's a damn good documentary. And one of the lead people in there, one of the guys who was the face of conversion therapy, was on a business trip for Exodus in DC one time, and of course he went down to the gay club. You know, the wife and kids are at home, and as they do, and so he was spotted and recognized by somebody, of course, because your face is all over international television. And but you know, just can't fight those urges. Sometimes you just need to be around some dick. And so they had the news waiting on him when he came out the gay club. So they caught his ass on camera and he trying to throw his hand up and block his face. The damage was done. We caught you, boo. We caught you. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay, I'm definitely going to put that on the list to watch over this weekend. Oh my God. Pray away. Okay.
Pray away.
My God. Just like, it's like, what are you doing? Well, it's like, it's not what it seems. I'm just here to help people. Like, why your pants down? Now that's a story I could tell. I tripped, I fell, and you know how it is.
Spoken like a true Republican.
Well, hey, so many Republican senators or governors have been caught over the course of time. Yes. So with your book, you got yourself a new mic. Okay, for anyone who's listening who did not listen to part one of this, yes, he here blew out his mic because I don't know what ultrasonic skills he decided to use at that time, but it just the mic was like, nope, I am not doing jack for you for the next I don't know what. So you. So your book, you've got yourself a new mic, which you've shown, very fetching Rode mic. With your book, you're doing a recording for it now. When do you think you're going to get the audio book out there? And where will we be able to get this audio book? This is your time to plug.
Yeah, I don't fucking know. Because look, it's like this. Memoirs take a long time. It's about 2 years now coming up since I first started the serious talks with the individual who was helping me put it all together. And everything like that. However, this particular individual likes to smoke a lot of fucking weed. And so a lot of people like that can be real bitches about things like deadlines. Like they don't seem to function in a world where they are okay with shit being due by this day and being responsible and always turning it in.
Okay, yeah. Maybe you should find a new partner with regards to this. I don't know how tight you are with this person, but yeah, if you can't get a deadline done, it ain't gonna be good.
We're too far into it now because the book is written. I'm just waiting on, the final draft to come from him so I can go through, finalize it, send it to my team of people who are going to look at it. But it's already done. And supposedly it's supposed to be to me by the end of September, which is like next week. And so, because I've gone back through it, the full draft and everything. So I'm pretty pleased with where it is. Suffice it to say, this person will not be working with me on the next book or any subsequent ones. So I tend to want to deal and try to be faithful as I can, and deal with people. I like their skill; they're very skilled and everything like that. And we just have different philosophies when it comes to business. I'm not one of those people. They're more like not as concerned about the process as long as the end deliverable, the end product is done high quality. They do high quality work. I'm more like, I want it all. I want shit to be done on time. The end product better be fucking phenomenal. And bitches don't need to be kept waiting. They haven't grasped that aspect of it. But they do really fucking good work. So this project will be completed with them. Because we're at the end of it now. Before they pissed me off enough to think about replacing them, we were too far into it. And so, but they will not be working with me on anything else ever again. So that's for damn sure. So, so if they actually get this to me by the end of this month, that puts us in October with me getting it to my people, you know, hopefully by the end of the year. But everybody can get the free first chapter, the opening up prologue at my website. So, so we'll give you a little appetizer for now. We're not going to leave you with nothing.
A tasty morsel, as they say. Yes. There you go. There you go. So, so with the book coming out, like hopefully before the end of the year, like, is this going to be the project for 2022, promoting the book as much as possible, or is it going to be a case of you're going to throw something else out there?
I will promote the book as much as possible, but I'm also next year I want to finish the second book, which I've also started on. And then after that, I want to put out my first album from the music that I've been writing for the last few years.
Okay, I'm like, yeah, you know what? D, I'm gonna call you Mr. Non-Stop. Oh God damn. Okay, yeah, second book, album. Okay, you know what? Yeah. Like, okay, like I'll have to. My last question before I let you go, because my God, my friend, yes, I go like, yeah, you know why I'm gonna let you go, so I can go off and start doing shit myself, because yeah, it's just it's like God damn. Now, for your podcast, if you could interview anyone, like past, present, fantasy, or like, yeah, anyone, within the power, yeah, who would you interview?
Gosh, you threw fantasy in there.
Yeah, keep it
I
the kid.
would say Madonna.
Madonna. Why? Why Madonna?
Because the part of her that I want to be like, she was given an interview one time and somebody asked her how she felt when she looked back over her body of work, and her response was she felt exhausted. She felt tired, you know, because she's done so fucking much. Everything that she does is epic. And everything down to the most finite fucking detail. And the bitch is relentless. Nobody, she doesn't give a fuck about how old she is. And people like she need to go set her ass down. You know, she's like, fuck you, I don't believe I will. And and I love her youthful energy that she maintains and everything like that. The older she got, the younger she behaved. And I just felt like she's made a lot of smart decisions, waiting till she was like, what, 40, 50 to have her first child, you know, and everything is just fucking epic with her. I was listening to somebody else's podcast and they were saying, I think it was like maybe Ja Rule or somebody like that, or I don't know if it was Old Dirty Bastard or Ja Rule or somebody was bitching about the way the industry was using him. And then they were saying like what he called Madonna, complain about it. And then Madonna was like, look, if they're not using you, then you're useless, and hung up the fucking phone. And so
It's like, there's a hello, hello, hello.
So, but I love that. If they're not using you, then you're useless. You know, shit like that, because I'm not about whining and crying. I'm about getting shit done. And I love her ambitious drive. She made it up through New York, you know, and everything like that. As people, you know, she's a hard ass and she's about her fucking business, and not everybody could hang with her on tour. You know, and there were some people who couldn't hack it because she wants shit done a certain fucking way. And she's not having it, you know, any other motherfucking way than that. And that's how I want my shit to be. Both of my book covers, I believe I took some inspiration from not Madonna's style, but her ability to make things that are polarizing. Either you fucking love Madonna or you fucking hate her ass. But ain't nobody in between, kind of like Madonna's okay. Either I love that bitch or I hate that bitch. It's one way or the other. And so, and that's how people are with me, and that's how I would prefer them to be. Just be on one side of the fucking fence, and we'll get along just fine. And that's how I want everything to be, just epic, from the artwork to the wording to the message, and I want everything to be polarizing, just like she is.
Fucking excellent. No, yeah. There you go, man. There you go. You know what? I've got to say, D, you, sir, you is a joy, is an honor, a pleasure having you on time and time again. Like, yeah, this is like the second time in like short succession. Look, put it this way: I brought him back even before I know how the performance of the first podcast episode was going to do, because like I feel like, yeah, his story is an important one to share with people out there. Look, if you can have a tenth of his enthusiasm, his passion, his drive, you'll be going in the right direction, people. Look, so D, thank you for coming on. Please tell the lovely people out there how they can find you, how they can track you down.
Just go to sexdrugsandjesus.com. I keep it. I'm extra as fuck, but some things I do keep simple. Everything is right there on that website. My email, if you want to chat me up or whatever, and all the book information, podcasts, everything. That one hub, just sexdrugsandjesus.com.
Perfect. Oh yes, I've got to say thank you for like putting through a sponsorship on the like challenge I'm like doing. It is much appreciated. Thank you. Much love and respect to you. Brilliant. And yeah, let me just say this to you, my friends, my life warriors. This is an occasion where no one's blown out mics and we can still hear each other, which is always a good thing. I got to say thank you for staying with us, sticking with us all the way to the end of this podcast. It is much appreciated. Please stay well, stay safe, be awesome, be excellent, be fantastic. Be all the positive bees you can be in this world and then some. Have a great day, guys. Yes. Peace. And we are.